The goal of this series is to connect you to people and topics and help you launch and grow your career in insurance. Today, we'll be discussing career changers and what brings and keeps people working in insurance. I'm joined by 4 very interesting panelists who have built really successful careers in insurance after transitioning from another insurance industry. Before getting started, I'd like to acknowledge that the land that I'm joining you from today is the territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. I also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, Mississaugas of the Credit. I invite you to take a moment to acknowledge and celebrate the land in which you are joining us from and reflect on the many nations who have stewarded this land over thousands of years. So I'm so thrilled to be joined by a wonderful panel of esteemed career changers. In just a moment, I'll ask the panelists to introduce themselves, share a little bit about their current jobs and their favorite thing about working in the industry, as well as where they came from before they worked in insurance. And while we're doing that, I invite you, the participants in this session, to share a little bit in the chat about you and what you're up to, maybe your career path, or why you're here today. I'll go first. My name is Emily McGinnis, and I'll be moderating today's panel. I am the CIP program manager here in GTA. And for those of you who are new to the industry and aren't familiar with the CIP designation is the benchmark for insurance professionalism. It's a 10-course program, and you can complete it at your own pace. We have 3 semesters: winter, which starts in January, spring, which starts this week, and fall, which starts in September. My background prior to going into insurance was in communications and public relations. And I would say my favorite thing about working in the insurance industry is the stability of the industry, as well as the people, of course. So just working my way down the list, I'll start with who I can see first, which is Maria. Did you want to take a second to introduce yourself?
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Maria. I am a commercial underwriter with Northbridge Insurance. And believe it or not, I moved to Canada in 2017 as an international student. My prior background is in hospitality and tourism. And I was in school and I was planning to pursue a marketing diploma. Somehow I went to an insurance event, and I was inspired by other insurance professionals, and who later became my first mentor and my insurance instructor later on, to pursue a career in insurance. And here I am a few years later, and as a commercial underwriter, and I love it.
Well, thanks, Maria. Michael, did you want to go next?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me today. So I'm Michael Brennan. I'm a senior life sciences underwriter with CNA Insurance out of Toronto. I started in this role 4 years ago. My current focus as a life science medical malpractice underwriter is on pharmaceuticals, medical devices, and clinical trials. And we cover Canadian domiciled operations and their worldwide products risk. And then my focus on medical malpractice is anything from small to large entities, such as regional paramedics, air ambulance services, surgical centers, and so on. In my daily role, I deal with brokers, while it's the brokers themselves who deal with the clients. And a few things I love about what I do right now. You know, my role requires a lot of research and in-depth work. So if the introverted part of me wants to put on my headphones and research new risk and do all the numbers and the research in the background, I can do that. And it's really nice to learn about new products and clinical trials and all this cutting edge stuff that we're seeing. I also really love travel, and you know, that's the extroverted part of me. A big part of my role involves relationship building with brokers. You know, in the past year, I've gotten to travel to like Halifax, Montreal, Vancouver, Chicago. I've been to Florida, and whether or not it's meeting brokers or other colleagues and networking and learning from each other, it's really, I'd say, one of the most favorite aspects of my job.
Thanks, Michael. And talking about travel, this is a good segue to talk about Abby. Abby, did you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Emily. Hi, everyone. It is so nice to be here. Hello, bonjour, as I recognize the audiences across Canada. It is so wonderful to be here. I am with Hub International as the SVP HR for Canada. I joined Hub about just under 4 years ago, started as a VP of HR with the largest region in Canada, and we had a ton of fun, really evolving our culture, learning and development opportunities. Prior to Hub, came from the airline industry, to Emily's point, and had a terrific career there as well in our Center of Excellence, all things talent, and a great group of people to work with. And prior to that, my career adventures took me across Canada, everything from manufacturing to hospitality, retail, oil and gas, and so excited to be a part of the insurance space, which truthfully found me. What I really love about insurance is the people aspect. My role allows me to connect with people across Canada and beyond, across North America. I love the opportunity to connect with the insurance sector as well, our colleagues, and the opportunity to give back to our communities. And that's, we've been having a ton of fun around how we impact with purpose. So really, really favorite part of my job, I would have to say, and what I do. Thank you again for the opportunity to be here.
Thanks, Abby. I love that insurance found me. I feel like that's something we're going to be touching on a lot today. Finally, Jason, did you want to introduce yourself next?
Sure, thank you. I have down that insurance picked me, so similar to Abby. My name is Jason Court. I'm a business development manager with Travelers Canada. New to the role, been here going on 4 weeks. My background, got an undergrad degree in HR, worked in hotels, worked for some other insurance companies before landing at Travelers. Got my CIP, my commercial insurance certificate, which I think is a great new program that the Institute offers. Working towards my CRM as well. And for me, it's all about relationships. I love this industry. It has so much to offer. And I think if you start to dabble in it, you'll love it too.
Thanks so much, Jason. And I see in the chat, we've got people from software, we've got people from accounting and finance. I've met people, it feels like, from all kinds of backgrounds. So I think you guys all come from very, very neat places prior to insurance, and looking forward to learning a little bit more today about you. So let's kick off the panel discussion. So again, everyone feel free to participate with the panelists in the chat box. It's just, for me, it's on the right-hand side of the screen, but no pressure, just feel free to join in. Maybe Abby, let's start with you. Why did you pick insurance?
Thanks, Emily. Truthfully, I think insurance found me. It picked me, and I'm so grateful that it did. I came across the opportunity with Hub and didn't know anything beyond what you need to do on an annual basis around your insurance task. And so it was a really interesting journey for me to learn around Hub in the insurance sector, the values alignment with my personal and professional values, the opportunity to grow my career in ways that I didn't expect. And as I stepped into insurance, it became so much more than just about HR, the function of HR. It became about our, to Michael's point around relationships and connecting with people. It became about how we give back to our community. And I truly saw this come to action as the pandemic unfolded, and we saw culture in action. We saw that genuine care and connection, collaboration as a sector. How do we help one another and work together to help people? So for that, it aligned with me. It took a leap of faith 4 years ago, and I have not looked back since. The opportunity to grow your career in so many different ways, from HR to finance to risk, in the insurance, client facing, behind the scenes, it's all there. You can truly drive your career in this space any which way you want to go.
I love that, Abby. Does anyone else have anything to add from the panel?
Insurance isn't going anywhere. It's going to be around forever, right? Like, you're going to need it. People say death and taxes, but I think it's death, taxes, and insurance. Like, it's whether it's public or private, it's an industry that's going to, weather the test of time.
Absolutely. I think that I think the Insurance Institute itself has been around for something like 130 years. So as far as the Insurance Institute is concerned, we definitely have been through it all, and we will continue to go through it all alongside the industry. And it's a really good point. Let's move on to the next question. What did you like about your current role? Jason, did you want to get us started with that one?
Yeah, sure. So my current role, and I touched on it, I think, a little bit in my intro, was about relationships. I love connecting with people, new connections. The companies I've worked for want you to get out to events outside of your 9-to-5 job, and you meet some great people. You meet some of your best friends in at these events and in this industry. They like to provide customer service from a hotel background to HR, and now into this, providing that great customer service. And if I think of a company aspect, I think I found the right culture. Like from the top down, I've met in the last 4 weeks the CEO to our senior leadership, and it's that genuine care that they have, that you really believe that they do have an open door policy, and I think you need to find the culture that's right for you.
I love that. And I think just reflecting on the fact that this panel is all together, I mean, we have people from a bunch of different companies, which you would consider in other industries to maybe be like a competition. It's very much a sense of culture. You can see it at events as well. They become kind of like little mini reunions with everyone together. I love that. Does anyone else have anything from the panel to add?
I would like to add that the networking is a great part of insurance, and fostering, creating, and just embracing those relationships and connections. It's an industry that somehow your coworkers end up becoming your best friends, and they're your biggest fans, and they will celebrate your success and you will celebrate theirs. One thing I wanted to add is that insurance is an industry that also embraces inclusion and diversity. And as a newcomer, not only to the industry, but a newcomer to the country as well, that's something that, again, your values align. If you have the same values, those will align with mostly all insurance companies or brokerages. So definitely take a look, go for it. There's a lot, this industry has a lot to offer.
I like that, Maria. That reminds me of what Abby was saying earlier about being aligned with your values. I definitely feel that way. We help people in times of crisis. We support them. We give them, insurance enables people to get, or companies to get financing that they might not otherwise get. I mean, there's so many things that insurance aligns with people's values. Does anyone else have any thoughts on this from the panel?
I wanted to add along that comment around the competition, what Maria just shared. There's a lot of work being done within the sector on diversity, equity, inclusion, and community around ESG together. And that has been incredibly inspiring. So to the earlier comments around relationship building and networking and all coming together as an industry, how can we give back to the community? How can we create an inclusive culture together? So that has also been inspiring to see. I saw a heart up there, so it caught my eye. That has just been from the heart, super inspiring to see that work as a sector.
Absolutely. And I know reflecting on that as well, we have events, at least in the GTA, like Women in Cancer Crusade. I think that might be national as well. I mean, that's a bunch of insurance companies coming together for a really great cause. There are a few others that I can think of, like even the Insurance Institute itself was formed by a bunch of insurance companies getting together downtown and saying, we need an arm for the industry to educate the industry. And even still today, our leadership, our boards, our committees, even going to like the textbook design, like everything is industry led, and everything is like a representation of the industry working together for something. And I think you can see that exemplified in many different ways, from events. There's in Toronto, there's the Young Insurance Professionals of Toronto. I'm sure there are others that our panelists can think of as well. But yeah, does anyone else have any thoughts on this? What you like about your current role? If not, we can move along. Okay, let's move on to the next question. So this is a really interesting one. Michael, you have a background in healthcare and chiropractic. How did you get started working in insurance?
I have a background in a few different things. My transition into insurance was definitely a long one and didn't come until my early 30s. I graduated with a BA in economics in 2006. Then went to South Korea and taught for a year, thinking, okay, maybe I want to teach. I didn't want to do that. And then I actually completed a 4-year post-grad in chiropractic in Toronto. And I finished that in 2011. And, when I got into the field, I realized it wasn't really my true calling. I loved healthcare. I loved health. But it wasn't something I was happy going to every day. And I really wanted to get into the corporate world. And even as a kid, growing up in a small town, I kind of went back to that and said, I think I really do want to go the corporate route. I would say my first step was really building my network. I had a lot of connections in the pharmaceutical industry and across different types of industries. And I'd say that was around 2013, but we were still recovering from 2008. So really nobody was hiring at the time, and it was really tough. So I networked as best as I could. I used LinkedIn. I connected on there. I messaged random people who were in careers that I thought I would like, and I would meet with those people. I messaged a few people in insurance as well, which was, interesting. And then, I had purchased books on interviews. I had a professional resume made just to give myself some confidence and to kind of just prepare myself. It also meant being honest with myself. I was very educated and motivated, but I really lacked any corporate experience whatsoever. So getting my foot in the door was tough. So I realized I kind of had to sidestep to get a little bit of practical experience to work my way in there. So I left chiropractic and I taught at an Ontario college, and I worked as a life sciences instructor and a curriculum developer for about a year and a half, 2 years. At that point, I was offered a role with Desjardins Insurance in Mississauga. So I took a step into that role as an accident benefits advisor. I was able to use my healthcare background, which really helped me perform in my job. And I kind of got plucked out of that and put into this major project and put into this project management role. And I spent about 2 years working on a fairly major project where I was able to build a new team of 11 people, a new process and accident benefits. And it taught me everything from, leadership to working with leadership and to really making great presentations, how to sell something. And I took a lot from it. And then, of course, at one point, CNA reached out to me. They were looking for a spot in their life sciences team, and I took it. They gave me a good offer. It was they took a bit of a risk on me because I hadn't had underwriting experience, but put me into this role because of my background. And it's worked really, really well, and it's going really well for us. So, and one thing I used to do is reach out to a lot of HR people on LinkedIn. And what's interesting, I used to have this technique, and maybe some people will laugh, but what I would do is, hey, here's a company I might want to look for. So I'd click on the profile of the senior HR person who I think would be responsible for hiring, with the hopes that they would look at my profile. And with CNA, it just so happened, our senior HR person is Aaron Gattoni. And I was away one weekend, and I was about to go out with some friends, and I'm like, I'm going to click on this one profile, and I almost didn't. And then I turned around and clicked on it, and it just so happened CNA was looking for a senior life science underwriter, and there really wasn't a lot of people with that background. So she clicked on my profile, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, this guy might fit exactly what we need. So, to be honest, I've landed my dream job. I really look forward to going to work every day. It's been a really interesting road getting here. But I find it a really interesting sector.
Thanks, Michael. I really like that. And could you talk a little bit about the, maybe not in depth, but just a little bit about the training that was offered when you first got into insurance? I know a lot of companies have in-house training programs that, so, people who don't have necessarily a background, but maybe like have some sort of niche or special interest, can get started. Could you talk, at a high level sort of about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. Insurance, there's so many different roles and so many different lines of business in insurance. I mean, at our company alone, you have, under the specialty umbrella, we have life sciences, medical malpractice, we got cyber and tech E&O, we have directors and officers, and then, we have marine and cargo and property and commercial, and all these people have a lot of knowledge in the areas they work in. But we also start with hiring associates or pulling people from different backgrounds in the company and training them in the roles they're interested in. And, every insurance company I've been with, which I guess is two, has really put a lot into training and investing in their employees. When I started as an accident benefits advisor with Desjardins, I think it was a 12-week training program, paid program, and it was long, but I really learned a lot. It was intimidating at first, but when you look back, almost 10 years, you're like, wow, I really have learned a lot about insurance. Like, it comes fast. And I was one of the first person in my training group to jump on the Insurance Institute CIP bandwagon. And I started within a few months of actually starting there. And I finished a few years ago getting my CIP designation, and it really was a huge help to kind of introduce me to different areas like underwriting, for example. When I took the underwriting course through the Institute, it really made me realize, I think underwriting is where I need to go. And then with CNA, it was a bit different. Coming into a senior role, there was no specific underwriting training program, but you basically are teamed up with a more senior person and they do your training. So they have basic stuff in place where you learn about the company and all that type of stuff. But they really just put you out there and give you a ton of opportunities to learn through people. And even today, I get to travel to conferences to work with our US team. I was in Florida in January for a life science conferences put on by my US boss, which was really nice for a few reasons. One, because it was a terrible winter and Florida was nice, but we really learn a lot from each other, and there's that teamwork in insurance and that willingness to teach people who are up and coming and want to learn. So I hope that answers the question. I don't think I went off on a tangent there, but
No. That's wonderful. And I don't think that your previous employers were unique in that they offer training. A lot of companies do that, especially the larger ones. So something to look out for, if you're looking for a jump into insurance, is just know that and this was kind of came up a little bit too in the chat, is that you don't necessarily have to take like a college or a university training program to get started in the industry. I see Abby nodding her head, which is a good thing for the VP of HR to be in agreement with that. A lot of companies have their own in-house training program that will, take you from no background in insurance and give you the tools and everything you need. They invest a lot in training from the get-go. So just if you are, considering a career in insurance, keep that in mind sort of as you're browsing boards. Abby, did you want to add anything onto that as well?
Thank you, Emily. Yes, I enthusiastically underscore bold that comment. Whatever stage of career you're at, or thinking about a career or thinking about school, think about insurance, think about that pivot, what you want to do, check it out, connect with someone. To Michael's point, maybe connect with someone in insurance and learn more. If you're going in to renew your insurance, ask some questions. It is a fantastic industry where you can truly grow your career at any stage in life.
Absolutely. Carolyn and I attended an event a couple of days ago where we met someone who worked in construction and is now, underwriting in construction. So, really, I met people from all kinds of backgrounds, and I'm always surprised that, what is out there for really anyone, wherever you're coming from, whatever you're searching for, there's something in insurance for you. Does anyone else have anything to add, maybe about their sort of training into the industry at a high level? If not, it's okay. We can move along.
Emily, I could add, while I didn't have specific insurance background, I was able to go through some of our Insurance 101 training. And I can share, to your point, there is a ton of training available, whether you're coming from the sector or outside of the sector. There is a lot of training and learning and development opportunities available. So in the insurance sector really sets you up for success, whatever career path you're choosing.
Absolutely. And I see some comments in the chat sort of reflecting this as well. One thing about our CIP program, since that's my background and that's what perspective I have. Whether you come into the industry sort of in the underwriting route or the claims route, some people, there's really like three main streams. There's like claims and underwriting, and then like producing or like broker agent stream. Whichever role you sort of enter into the industry, the CIP program, if you decide to do that in the future, will sort of give you that perspective of, if you're coming in through the claims route, there's opportunities to learn sort of about what broker agents do and about what underwriting does. And you can kind of, expand your horizons a little bit. You can kind of speak with confidence. You aren't necessarily pigeonholed into wherever you get started. I think wherever you enter the industry, there's opportunities to kind of move around a little bit depending on what the more you learn about the industry and the projects you work on and what interests you overall.
Emily,
Yes,
can I give a plug for the commercial insurance certificate that the Institute offers?
absolutely.
I think this is one of the best courses. The CIP is great, don't get me wrong, but this course, it's 3 courses. It's you learn the fundamentals in B210 or C70, gateway to commercial. B222 adds on like your marine cargo, D&O, E&O, business interruption. And then B230, you take a company, a guy makes bicycles or fixed bicycles in his backyard to a global manufacturer. And in each chapter, you learn what exposures you need to assess. And I moved from personal lines into commercial underwriting 2 years ago and had no commercial understanding. And that course is phenomenal to get your feet wet in commercial underwriting or claims understanding.
Absolutely. And for those of you that are sort of new to the industry and maybe aren't familiar with like commercial and personal lines, commercial lines is like a little bit more on the specialty side, a little bit more, dealing with businesses, like business to business type transactions. Jason, you've completed this commercial insurance certificate, so you'll probably be able to articulate that a little bit better than me. But all that to say, there's a lot of opportunities in the on the commercial side of the industry, if you hear that term. Definitely commercial insurance. I've heard wonderful things about it. I haven't personally taken the whole program. I've done C70, which is the introduction to commercial insurance, and that was a fabulous program. It was recently updated again, even though it's a new course. So I'm really glad to hear that you found that to be helpful. Does anyone else have any points that they want to add while I sort of scroll through the chat here?
I think Palak has a question there about how to get into the insurance industry and I think be recognized a bit more.
Sorry, I'm scrolling here. Oh, I see. Okay.
I'm gonna touch base on something that might be related to Alex's question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to point out that is part of our next question as well is there's a lot of transferable skills that you might already have, believe it or not, like customer service. That's something that insurance is about people because we like to do business with other people. So it's all about those relationships, those connections. And as I mentioned earlier, those networking experiences that you might have, and you might be you're already taking the first step. You've registered yourself for this event. You're here, you're learning, you're asking questions. So that is something that you're already doing. And connecting, I want to point out, I think Michael mentioned that connecting on LinkedIn. So I find that leveraging LinkedIn is a great tool, not only to meet other professionals, but also to connect, learn what's happening in the insurance industry, what is going on with your coworkers or even your CIP classmates. I think you're already on the right path and you're taking the right steps to get there eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. And Carolyn has also mentioned a few resources that her arm of sort of the Institute Career Connections has available. One of them is a job board. The other one is, and I'm just scrolling up. She has, they host resume reviews and mock interviews, so you can, take advantage of those resources. I know Michael mentioned that he had his resume professionally reviewed. So that's definitely take advantage of that service. That's wonderful that we have that. So yeah, check that out. That's linked in the chat that Carolyn has provided. Maybe then that's a good segue. Maria, what advice do you have for someone that's thinking about a career change? I know you sort of touched on that a little bit. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yes, absolutely. First, you're already taking the first step. you're here, you're listening, you're asking questions. Also, continue putting yourself out there. Connect with people, create a LinkedIn profile. If you don't have one, start with that. And then start connecting with people, see who, because people are gonna be, that's what I love about the industry, is that everyone is willing to help you. No matter what stage you are, you're a newcomer, you're an insurance or risk management student, or maybe you're already in the industry, you're working, but you're thinking about switching departments, or from claims, you might be thinking, oh, I might want to go into business development, or I might want to become an underwriter. And people are always there, and it's all about, don't be afraid to connect. There's going to be lots of people and lots of insurance professionals that they will be willing to help you in your journey. When I was a student, I remember meeting a lot of actually career connection ambassadors. Some of them, they were so helpful. They checked my resume a couple times. They helped me with a cover letter as well. I even had a speedy interviews. But also the most important part is that they're willing to share their experience and their story. And that can make a difference, because that's a connection that even though you might not see them in a few years, you never know. You might see them again in 4 or 5 years in a different event, and you will catch up. So those connections are always going to be there, and they will be there supporting you and celebrating your success as well. Another thing that I wanted to add is, whenever you work on your resume and you're thinking about a career change, just picture all those skills that you already have and that you have already mastered in a different role, in a different sector. Now, if you do have a job posting, well, just compare those. What are they looking for? What are the responsibilities in this role that I'm applying? Oh, for example, if you want to get into claims, well, you're going to have to be actually talking to people and perhaps investigating a claim or adjusting a claim. And you might have already done that in a different way, right? You might already have the experience, customer service, or you might have already had, if you were a student, you probably had a case study that you had to actually analyze, and that you had to propose a solution. So think about everything that you already know and how that can be transferred into where you see yourself going and that role that you might be applying to. And keep connecting and networking with insurance professionals. That's a big piece of our industry. And once again, we love to do business with other people. And we remember those friendships, those connections, and they will always be there. So it's step by step. You're already taking the first one today.
Yes, thank you, Maria. That's some really useful advice. I especially like the point that you made at the beginning, and you've made a few times, about taking the first step. Thank you, all of you, for joining and taking this time out of your day. You know, whether you're thinking about a career in insurance, or you've heard about a career in insurance, or you already work in insurance and you're kind of thinking about how to grow my career, even though I have a background that might not necessarily be related. I think this panel is sort of a really good example of how you can leverage your past experience into something really great in insurance. I know it's if you don't know, it's there is a big talent gap coming in the insurance industry, and there's definitely a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of the Institute does demographic research on the industry, and we predicted this 5 years ago. There's a big portion of our population that is retiring soon, and we need people to fill those roles. So whatever your background is in, there's opportunities to grow your career here. Does anyone else have anything to add? I know we were on Maria's question for a while. What advice does anyone else on the panel want to speak to that about what advice you would have for anyone that's considering a career? I see a lot of questions in the chat, so I think this is a really good question to sort of stop on for a minute.
I can give some advice.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's interesting. There's something I've really learned along the way, you know, about learning and making yourself desirable to people hiring. You know, one thing I've learned very early on was to be humble. You know, I remember coming out of university thinking, all right, I got this degree, everyone's going to give me an interview. I got zilch, you know, and that was my first humbling. And I think I've been humbled a few more times. And what it's taught me as a person is to be a lot more open. I don't think anything is below any of us. You know, I think we really learn from each and every experience, regardless of the job we do. And, you know, for me, I've always shown excitement and willingness to learn no matter what the job was. And I think it's been a big part of my success in appealing to people who are hiring, for example. You know, I remember working at McDonald's as a kid, you know, and I took a lot from it. I learned teamwork and how to work under a lot of pressure and all that kind of stuff. And even after I finished 8 years at university, I went to work at Starbucks for 3 months until my license was approved to practice. And I worked in Kingston on Queens campus, and it was really, really busy, but I absolutely loved it. And I took a lot from it, you know, and I learned a lot from that I got to pull into my next role. You know, so I've always been very open to learning no matter what the role was. I've always brought optimism and open-mindedness, to each and every job. And I think it's vital not to just our development, but being at our best and being appealing to people who are hiring. You know, and spending time at your roles, learning about it, and really just doing the best you can, because it helps build up your resume, right? So I'm sure HR can speak to that. If, you know, you look at a resume and somebody's really put time into what they're doing and has put effort into it and hasn't jumped around a lot, I think it's really helpful. So.
Thanks, Michael. I really like that point about being open to learning. I think that that's really important, because I don't think, and probably Abby, we're poking on you a lot here, but I think, you know, HR would probably say the same thing. There's not going to be someone out there that knows everything going into a role, and that's perfectly okay to not know the role. You just have to be open to learning and open to, like, you know, taking on training. And I think that the more you learn through your career, the better. Like, never stop learning. I've taken, you know, courses. It keeps my mind fresh. We have, you know, at the Institute, and I can only speak to the Institute, but the Institute, we have classes on new topics, new and emerging topics, like, for example, commercial insurance. You know, as that becomes sort of a lot more popular, we've developed course material on that, and we continually review it. C20, which is our cyber risk program. Cyber risk is an emerging risk. I mean, we relaunched that textbook now, I think 3 years ago, and it's already being updated. It just changes that quickly. And so I think to be successful in insurance, you don't have to know everything about insurance, but you have to be open to learning, you know, something in order to be successful in the role. So I really like that, Michael. Thank you. Is there anyone else on the panel? Abby, I saw you nodding a lot. Did you want me to add anything to that?
For sure. I think between yourself and Michael, I mean, you've excited me around the space of learning. And when I think about learning, you're absolutely right. I think of some of our best hires, and some of them might actually be on this call, coming out of university, but what I really love more than the university piece was the transferable skills they came with from their early careers. So I heard the McDonald's, you know, the Starbucks, financial institutions, and the customer service skills that they brought forward. And we were able to learn from one another. So we could provide the technical learning and shaping, as well as vice versa. What are the transferable skills that you can bring to the organization? So super passionate, whatever stage. A lot of insurance organizations, CIP, I know there's internship programs, there's early career programs, there's new to insurance programs. So check it out, be curious, be open. To Michael's point, that humility and humbleness I can relate to. And I'm super passionate about this space, because it really is about people, and people being, you can be front facing in the sales and the business development side, or behind the scenes, equally as important. We all have a piece to play to contribute to success. So if you love technology and spreadsheets, we need you in the sector too. So be curious.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Abby. Did Jason, did you want to add anything onto that, or you're good?
Just on advice, probably to Michael's point about being humble. I mean, you may need to get your start in the call center, but set yourself apart when you're there. You start, if you get a compliment, if you get something, set a little folder up for yourself, and your manager may have 12 to 20 people on. At the end of the year, make yourself a list and set yourself apart, and that's going to accelerate your career.
Thanks, Jason. I agree completely. We see a lot of vacancies right now in sort of in call center roles, and there's definitely a lot of opportunity there to shine and stand out and get the training as well. Maybe moving on to the next question. What maybe surprised you about the insurance industry that you didn't know beforehand? Abby, did you have any thoughts on that?
A lot surprised me, a lot. And it continues to surprise me in the best way possible. To the earlier comments from my colleagues here around relationship building, connections and friendships, that has just blown me away. The level of care and connection and kindness, a genuine appetite and desire to help people, that has blown me away. The innovation, the creativity, which, full transparency, I don't know that I would have associated that with insurance before joining the industry. There is a ton of innovation happening and creativity and movement. It is super fast paced. And again, it's just that it's so inspiring to me to see what's possible. And that's what the sector is about. Probably that humility plays in we don't sell ourselves enough and put ourselves out there enough. There's a ton happening behind the scenes to support our communities that we serve. The starfish necklace that I'm wearing today is a gift from my team last year around the impact, as a thank you, as I stepped into this role, around the impact I had on them. And the truth is they had an impact on me and shaped who I am personally and professionally, the leader I am today. And for that, I am grateful. And I expand that out into this sector. The starfish story, if you haven't heard about it, I'd encourage you to check it out because it feels like it goes hand in hand with the insurance industry. Very much about making a difference, helping people and purpose.
I love that. And I love that story, Abby. Thank you for sharing. Does anyone else have any thoughts? I know that there's a lot to insurance that people probably don't know about. Is there anything sort of in your current roles or in your past roles that you found to be surprising? Anyone else on the panel wanted to talk about that? Or does anyone in the chat feel free to join in?
Okay, I am Khurram Iqbal. I have a question that if somebody has done ACII, Associate Chartered Insurer from Chartered Insurance Institute London, then he or she has a scope in Canada as compared to CPI.
Oh, did anyone on the, so as far as, maybe I can touch on this a little bit. Carolyn may have some thoughts as well in the chat, but we do have on the Insurance Institute website a page all about equivalencies. Depending on what you want to do in the industry, if you're looking to sell or if you're looking for claims, there are some licenses that are, required for different provinces. I'm not sure where you're located and I don't know offhand all of the details of every province, but definitely check out our website. Just go into the search bar and search for equivalencies. Because there may be an opportunity to get some of your international qualifications recognized in Canada as well. Does that answer your question?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for the question. Does anyone else on the panel have any anything that surprised them about the industry?
Absolutely. Curiosity, and how is it that your team is always going to be there to support you, touching base on what Abby said. But also they're gonna they have a genuine concern and they want to see you succeed. So they're going to be always willing to answer your questions, help you out, be there for you. And what I love more about insurance in general, and I was surprised to learn, how is it that insurance is always evolving, right? There's always, for example, the pandemic accelerated technology growth. So now, as you touched base earlier, Emily, we need, there's more requirements for cyber coverage. But at the same time, the pandemic also introduced some exclusions when it comes to communicable disease. So we're always innovating. There's always, we need people that are creative and that are I don't know, are willing to find solutions and are curious about how can we do things better and how can we continue evolving and improving. And you will see that on a day-to-day basis. That's what surprised me the most about the industry.
I love that. And I think, you know, speaking from the Insurance Institute's perspective, our textbooks, you know, they used to be changed every, you know, 5-10 years, and that was perfectly fine for most of our history. We now change our textbook every few years, like sometimes even faster than that. The content, like everything is just changing so quickly. So, you know, talking about, keep learning, be open to learning. I think that the people that find the most success in the industry are those that are, you know, willing to continue learning.
I'll chime in and
Yeah.
the serious stuff has been mentioned, but there is a lot of fun stuff that goes on. There's a lot of events that happen. You know, soirees, bowling, axe throwing, put on a hockey tournament for Atlantic Canada last month. Like there's trivia, like you name it. There is usually 1 or 2 events a week in a different region that you get to go out and, again, relationship build and meet people from different either company side, broker side, claim side, and again, establish those relationships.
Yes, thank you, Jason. I think our industry sometimes gets a bad rap, and an undeserved rap, that we're boring or something. Like when you tell people you're at you know, that you haven't met before, that you work in insurance, they're like, oh, okay, and then there's no further questions about it. But it's a very exciting industry to be part of. I know I see Bev in the chat mentioned sushi making. We have a sushi making event coming up at the Institute in the GTA, chocolate tasting, wine tasting. I know in Toronto, we just had a baseball game. We all went out to the Jays. There's like so much, you know, companies are looking for their staff to be networking and making connections in the industry. And so there's definitely a lot of opportunity, you know, if you're at a point in life where you like to, you know, get out and enjoy, be social, and as well as travel. Michael talked about travel earlier. Everyone's kind of nodding along because I know several of the panelists have been on the road quite a bit this year already. So definitely a lot of opportunity if you have a little bit of a travel bug as well. I see in the chat, we have a question for Abby. Could you give an example of innovation or creativity in the insurance industry?
Oh, for sure. Happy to. And you know what? I bet my colleagues here would also have terrific examples. I'll share one from a learning and development perspective, because that one is near and dear to my heart. So when I think about learning across North America and across Canada, it's not feasible or cost conscious to bring everyone together all the time. And so we've created different channels where there's in-person learning as well as hybrid virtual learning. So everything from summer camps, where our people can join from wherever they are across Canada and beyond, to learn in bite size, mindful that everyone's got a lot going on, but you can take a bite-sized period of time to learn about something, whether it be from financial acumen, mental health and well-being, the industry, to your own emotional intelligence, you name it. And we are constantly refining that as we go along. So we have summer camp and snow camp. Again, to Jason's point around having some fun with it, but also embedding learning in a very creative and innovative way, leveraging technology where we can bring people together in small periods of time and just have some fun learning and connecting. And to the earlier comments, just meeting and networking new people. I know my colleagues will have other great examples, though, but that one from a learning and development definitely stands out, how we bring people together.
Absolutely. Does anyone else on the panel have any examples? I'm trying to think of some at the Institute that I've been working on. I know right now we're developing a new, you know, we're always developing things behind the scenes and opportunities to create and engage. I know some of our, you know, to the learning and development point, you know, we have new resources, especially in one of our bodily injury, in bodily injury textbooks. You know, there's some new like 3D models that students can work with that are pretty real to life. So very neat things happening in the industry for sure.
And just to add to creativity and innovation as well, even on the underwriting side, I think what used to be fairly slow to change is now very quick and evolving very quickly, because risk are like cyber, for example, are evolving like crazy. For what I underwrite, particularly life sciences, COVID-19 was really interesting for us, because all of a sudden we're having to get, there's competition out there and you got to get creative. And for us, our creativity and innovation comes into play with our appetite and our policy wording. So our policy wording can be fairly flexible in how we want to cover and what we want to cover. So, if somebody brings me a risk like a COVID-19 vaccine clinical trial, we're going to assess the risk, and based on whether or not we think it's a low, medium, high risk, what could the severity of a loss be? We can be very flexible and creative in how we offer terms, right? Instead of giving 10 million, maybe we offer 5, and then somebody else has to offer the other 5. We're flexible with things like deductibles and all that kind of stuff. And then we can carve in or out different coverages based on how we want our policy to respond. And if there's part of the risk we can't control, it might be something we change the wording on and exclude in the policy. So that's where we get into the more nerdy portion of the risk, which I really love. But then you get into the other part, which is networking. You can do business a lot better with a broker or somebody that you golfed with or had dinner with or whatever, because often there's a huge teamwork approach going on with how we can make a risk work, because often it's basically trying to fit, a square peg into a round hole sometimes. You have to make it work, and you have to figure out creative ways to do it. It takes a lot of thinking and a lot of teamwork to do it, because you're trying to manage and mitigate your risk, but make everybody else happy at the same time, because we know we're going to have losses, but at the end of the day, we also need to make profit, because without profit, we can't hire new people and take home paychecks. So I think it's really creative and innovative from that perspective as well, and a lot more so today than it probably was 10 years ago.
Definitely. And I see Bev's comment in the chat. She's mentioned that some companies have actually created divisions devoted to training, innovation, and thinking outside the box. I know, and this is even now considered an old example, but like autonomous vehicles, that represents a new risk. Everything that is sort of evolving in the tech space, anything that's kind of evolving in the medical space, everything that evolves in any industry requires insurance. If they want to move into it, like buying and selling it, at a certain point, everything requires insurance. So you think about autonomous vehicles, there are underwriters, there are claims people out there that are looking at thinking about like collisions, and at what point was the vehicle driving, and at what point was the person driving, and who's responsible. And they look at the technology with a very clear eye. They understand it very well. And so if technology and innovation is something that you're interested in, depending on what field that you're in, definitely insurance, there's an opportunity there for you as well. And I see that we're kind of getting close to the end. I'll see if there's any final questions in the chat, if anyone wants to add anything, but just closing things off. Does anyone have any final thoughts that they wanted to add? Oh, I see. Oh, the course, someone had a question about the courses Jason mentioned. So he was mentioning the commercial insurance program at the Institute. So if you go onto our website, insuranceinstitute.ca, and you type in commercial insurance certificate, then you should be able to pull it up. The Insurance Institute has several continuing education programs, not in addition to the CIP. So there's the CIP, of course, the Chartered Insurance Professional Designation. There's also, once you get your CIP, there's the Advanced Chartered Insurance Professional Designation and the Fellow Insurance Professional Designation, the FCIP. But in addition to that, we also have a commercial insurance program that Jason mentioned. We have a risk management certificate if you're looking to get into risk management. We also have a general insurance essentials program if you're looking to just get a baseline understanding of the industry, but you work in maybe like accounting or something like that. So there's definitely a lot of different programs available at the Institute. And even within your CIP, you can kind of tailor. There's a lot of elective courses you can choose from, like commercial insurance, building construction, bodily injury. You don't have to take the same thing as everyone else. You know, there's fraud, lots of different courses. I see Sabrina in the chat has mentioned the CMGA certificate program. That's a new program for MGAs. As you sort of get into the industry, you understand all these acronyms, but definitely something to look into as well. Okay. Oh, someone asked how necessary are professional certifications such as CIP, CRM, and CABE and advancing in one's career in the insurance industry. Does anyone from the panel want to speak to that? If not, I can.
For me personally, I've done 2 of the 3, I think. It shows your manager, your boss, that you're willing to learn and open to learn, and you're putting the time in your own time to invest in your career. And I think that just shines a light on you. Say, hey, I'm bought in, and it helps progress your career, from my personal opinion.
Thanks, Jason. Does anyone else have any thoughts? I know on the panel, not everyone has these designations, but you know, from my perspective, I think the key word in your question is advancing in the industry. You don't need necessarily all of the designations to get started in the industry. You know, a lot of companies will support your education, they'll support your training, they'll support you pursuing different designations, you know, depending on, you know, what it is that you're interested in and where that is that you're headed in your career. So I would say you don't need it to get started, but if, you know, depending on how you'd like to advance, definitely those certifications are something to look into, and it might be worth a conversation with your manager just to see, you know, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm, you know, this is where I'd like to go. Do you think, you know, this designation would help or that designation would help? I think from as far as the CIP is concerned, like, I absolutely think that it is the benchmark designation for the industry. You get, you know, a perspective from different career streams. You know, if you're, like I said, if you're in underwriting, you get that perspective on the claim side, you get that perspective on the underwriting side. It just like allows you to have the vocabulary or to understand what different roles are thinking about. And I think that helps you be successful in your own career journey. So I definitely think the CIP is a worthwhile designation to do, regardless of what role you have in the industry. Even if you just take one course a year, it's just, you know, you're just constantly adding on to your continuation. You can put on your resume that you're working towards your CIP. I definitely think it is a good designation to aim for. Oh, someone mentioned, yes, the CABE can be transferred towards the CIP. That's a good point. I know a lot of people are new to the industry in this chat here, and may already have some licensing standards already, or sorry, some licensing behind them. You may have some advanced qualifications that would, so that you wouldn't necessarily have to do all of the classes. You might be able to be exempt from 1 or 2 classes. And I'm looking at the time, and I can't believe it's already 2 o'clock on Eastern time, at least. So we're at the full hour, and I just want to take this opportunity to thank all of the panelists for sharing their insight and experiences. You guys all have such, you know, really unique career stories. Thank you for sharing them with the industry. Thank you for sharing them with the participants. And for everyone joining the call from across Canada or possibly internationally, thank you for spending the afternoon with us or the morning with us if you're on the West Coast. Thank you for spending some time with us today. And just one last plug for Career Connections. If you are looking for some assistance getting into the industry, either with resume writing or interview tips, they're a great resource. Check them out, Career Connections. You can type it into Google. I believe it's careerconnections.ca. But thank you for your time, and thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.